Alright, so today what we're going to show is how to get the machines back online. We're going to start with if the machine has been turned off. Some machines are still on, but if it's turned off, you have to turn it on. The plug is in the back on all Cafection machines, and it's on the back on the same side where the power plug is. So on this particular model, it's in the back on this side. So on the Encore 29, to get into the service window, there's 3 spots that you have to press. And you get into a window that you need to type in a security key, which is the number 5, 6, and 5, 7. 5, 6, 5, 7, enter. Now the machines have been sitting for a while, so I think the first thing we need to do is do a series of rinses on the machine. This is the newest version of the software. Your software may be different, but it's essentially the same. So look for the tab that says rinse. You press rinse, it'll ask you to put a cup underneath, and you rinse. That sound you hear is rotating the valves. So every time you do a rinse, it does that to rotate the valves. If anything's going to get stuck in it, will fall into the rinse. We're going to have to do 10 rinses just to make sure that we're getting fresh water inside the machine. So I'll show you 2. And you wait while it finishes its rinse. It rinses the brew chamber, and then it rinses the soluble canisters. And we'll do 1 more. And I'd like you to do 10 of them. That way we can assure that we're getting fresh water inside the tank. Water's hot, so be careful. Now this machine's been sitting for 5 weeks, and as you can see, it needs a rinse. You're going to have to do 8 more rinses. The 10 rinses have been done, and next step we're going to do is a paper filter install. And that'll open up the brew chamber so we can advance the paper. It's been sitting on the brew chamber for 4 to 5 weeks. So that's the brew chamber. We'll take off this little guard. See how dirty that is? We're going to have to clean that. Paper filter install. We want the paper to advance. Now you can lift up on the traction wheels and just pull the paper through. And pull it until you get to a really nice dry spot. Next step we're going to do is going to remove all the canisters and the bean hopper. All Cafection machines are the same. The canisters all come out the same way. The bean hoppers are a little bit different. On the Encore 29, the bean hopper, you pull down here. It says pull gently once, and then pull it out till its first stopping point, which is there, and then pull it down again to be able to remove the bean hopper. Now, place it on the counter. We will be dumping all the beans. The milk canister we'll take out. Cocoa. And French vanilla. Don't worry, there's some that's going to spill. We'll clean that up later. And this is how your operator actually refills them. Now on the inside of the machine, we're going to do a quick clean. Since we have the bean hopper out and all the soluble canisters out, this is the time we should clean it. I know you have limited resources. If you had a brush and a cup, you'd be able to brush everything into the cup to put in the trash. So we'll go through this. This should take just a few minutes. Try not to get anything into the grinder. If you do, don't worry about it. The first rinse that we do, we'll remove it. We're trying as much as possible just to put everything in here. Same for the canisters. Now these are a little bit tricky, so we have to put it on the corner and catch it there. You put it inside, we'll do a rinse. This is not as important as the bean side. And don't worry about it, everything that falls in will fall into the trash below if you're using a trash, or into the internal waste bin if you're using an internal waste bin. Alright, so we've removed most of the soluble on the inside. We can use just a little bit of hot water on a paper towel. I'd always use paper towel, not a rag, because you throw it out as you go along. You're not spreading anything from one side of the machine to another. So just basically rinse off the interior and dry it with a paper towel. Nice and clean. We'll get into the whippers later. And then on the bean hopper side, same idea. And dry it off. And don't be too worried about the counter. You'll have some residue on the counter. We'll clean that up after. But this is nice and clean. Now the whippers, it's important that the whippers be looked at. So I always take off the top of the little whipper chamber. They just pull right up. This we can rinse under hot water. And then you want to have a look inside the whipper to make sure there's really, this one's actually pretty clean because we did so many rinses. But this I'll take off because this is part of the air circulation. So I just want to make sure it's not blocked. So I'll take off all the covers. This one's clean, and this one's blocked. So we'll just clean that, but the whippers look very clean on the inside. What you can do is just put a paper towel inside and just do a little bit of a clean. Again, we're just getting the machines up and running. Your service operator will come and visit shortly. So the brew chamber, we've advanced the paper. We'll leave the paper on top of the brew chamber itself just to keep the stuff that we're going to put into the trash below. But the brew chamber, as you can see, some residue of coffee, and we've done rinses, so the inside of the funnel should be nice and clean, but you've got residue of coffee. You can just push it with your finger. Sometimes we use a brush to have access to it. Just clean it up as much as possible. There's some old coffee residue. Even if it falls into the brew chamber, it's okay. It's going to fall into the paper. So you just want to wipe off inside as much as you can. Make it as clean as possible. And this looks pretty good. What we'll do after is we'll advance the paper. You know, a good step would be to cut the paper filter roll on top of the brew chamber, pull all that came off the funnel into the trash below, and then we can use a brush to clean the screen where the coffee falls in and goes into your brew chamber. So in order to do that with scissors, you can do it with your hand as well. I mean, it's not thick paper. And then just lift up the traction wheels, pull all that into the trash below. The trash is the last thing that we're going to take out because we're actually using it to store dust and coffee that's accumulated inside the machine. You just want to clean the top of the brew chamber, because up here there's a mesh filter. And so just continue our cleaning process. And now if your paper filter roll only has about 1 inch left, I suggest that you change it. So if wherever you keep the paper filter roll, you take it, the top is like this, over the top. It has to go underneath this. We call it the nail, but it's not really a nail, it's a post. It goes underneath the post, underneath the brew chamber. Lift up the traction wheels, put the paper underneath the traction wheels, pull it into the trash. That's important. And if the trash is below the machine, you want to pull it into the trash below. And the reason for that is every time you make a cup of coffee, the paper advances, and the coffee that's still on the paper filter roll acts as a weight and actually pulls the paper into the trash below. It's part of gravity. So now we'll just continue. Big little clean here. Wherever there's residue. And I think this is good enough. The next step would be to clean the top of the whipper motors, and as well we're going to dump some canisters. Now we're at the stage where all of this, all the coffee needs to be dumped, and you will be replacing it with the coffee that you have at your location, or you call your office coffee supplier. And I'm going to dump the milk. It's not necessary, they don't go bad, but I'm just going to show you the process of dumping it. So essentially we take the milk canister out of the machine, which we did at the beginning, and it's going to make some dust. So you just want to make sure that you're not breathing in too much of this dust. It smells pretty good. It's not dangerous, but you just don't mind. By doing so, you also want to make sure that the augers on the inside turn. So you want to be turning the ends. If it turns freely, you can put this back in the machine right now. You don't even have to clean it. It'll be the same for the chocolate and for the vanilla. As for the coffee, they do go bad. If it's been sitting for a few weeks, it's not going to make you sick, but it's not great coffee. So take the bean hopper, and these are fragile. Don't worry if you just carry it, you're not going to break it, but you don't want to start banging on the side of the trash. Everything's going to fall out perfectly anyway, so. Now, as you can see, there's beans in the augers here. So, this will turn the augers, try to get the beans to fall out. As you can see, they're falling out. You're going to have some beans on the carpet as well. You can pick up easily enough. This auger is free of beans, and we'll put it back in the machine for the next fill. If you want, you can wipe it down with a very lightly damp cloth because it needs to air dry, so you don't want to get it too wet. But you can wipe it down with a little bit of a damp cloth just to clean it if you like. So we're at the stage where, remember at the beginning, these were going to wash. These are the top of the whipper motors. One of them was very crystallized chocolate. Just under hot water, you just clean it. It all comes off. So there's nothing left. It's like brand new. That's what you want to do. Here's some more clog. This is the vanilla, I think. And you don't have to worry about it. Each one fits on, they all fit the same. So there is no one for milk. And this one is clean. And this one. So that's pretty much what you're going to be cleaning. Now, we're going to show you something that if you really want to do a deep clean of the soluble augers or the soluble canisters, it has to air dry, which means you need to come back tomorrow. You do the cleaning today, put it on some paper towels on the cabinet, and just let it air dry. You can't put it in the dishwasher. It's only hot water, no soap. And so we'll do one, and then we'll show you how to put everything back into the machine, and we'll assume that it's already air dried, but it'll take overnight. So if you've got time, it'd be a nice thing to do. It's not necessary though. So we'll clean this one. This one is, we've removed everything from the auger. This one was the milk one, and a little bit of milk residue. These you can bang on the side a little bit. It's not going to break. So with hot water, and again, it's soluble, so I can turn the auger back and forth. Just using your hands, and it's Nice and clean, like new. That's all there is to it. But now it has to dry. So this is where I would put it on some paper towels and just let it dry overnight. But as you can see, it's just like brand new. It's not necessary, but it's a nice touch. So the next day when you fill it up, it's a brand new auger. So congratulations, now it's the reassembly stage. So filling up the canisters and filling up the bean hoppers. So I brought some coffee. This is a large office with a lot of machines since we manufacture here, so we get our coffee bags in a lot bigger bags than you have. But essentially the important thing is on the coffee machine, you have coffee 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. So it's important, 1, 2, and 3. It's important that if coffee number 3 says decaf, this is where the decaf goes. If coffee number 2 says a specific brand of coffee and it has to be in hopper number 2, you have that bag somewhere, it goes in this one. That's the important thing. Making sure that the coffee goes in the right canister, in the right hopper, especially the decaf. The decaf is usually in the smallest hopper. So we fill this back up. It's on the counter. The French vanilla goes in here. It's this little bag of 2-pound bag of French vanilla. Pour that in. And just go up to the top of the sticker. You don't want to overfill. Chocolate as well. Leave about an inch at the top. And same for the milk. It's all dry soluble, so you just cut the corner of the bag and then pour it in. It falls in perfectly, and then we reassemble. So let's do that. We also, before we cleaned the top of the whipper motors, so now it's time to reassemble. Look how clean the inside of the machine is. So you put this into the little air hole there, the vent, and just press it down, that's all. Again, this goes into the vent, and you press it down. See, there's a little mark here that fits into that crack. See? Right there. And alright, whippers are all taken care of. Paper filter roll has been advanced. I always start with the one that's on the right hand side. So in this particular case, it says vanilla. So put the vanilla in. The important thing when you're putting the soluble canisters in is this. The auger motor's in the back. It fits in this little drive here. That's what turns the augers. That's what advances the product into the whipper. So I always start on the, hang on, there you go. On the right hand side, there's a little hole here. You see that hole? There's a hole at the bottom of the canister as well. So see right here, there's a hole. There's a little pin or knockout from the plastic. So get it lift up the top a little bit. Perfect, that one's in. And the last one is the milk. I'm going to make sure they're all turned perfectly so that they fall into the whipper directly. So when you're advancing, remember this is the one we cleaned. These ones we didn't clean. We cleaned this one and we needed to have it sit air dry outside the machine for 24 hours. If you're going to clean all three have to sit outside and you're going to assemble that tomorrow. The same is true for the bean hoppers. There's auger motors in the back. These fit in the auger motors. So it goes, this is the back. So it has to go in. Open up the door a little bit. It goes in the track. And we push back. That's it. All right, so we've cleaned the brew chamber. It's still open. The paper filter roll, if it needed to be changed, has been changed. We actually cut the paper filter roll to have access to the screen underneath the brew chamber so we can brush the residue off the top to keep it clean. And everything we pushed into the trash below. So either the trash is below the machine in a waste bin underneath, or if you're using an internal waste bin, now's the time to dump the trash. So we'll dump that. And as you can see, it really doesn't need much cleaning. If you want, you can wipe it down, but this is good enough. And We just put it right back inside the machine. Paper filter roll. I'll advance into the trash below. And next move would be to make a cup of coffee after we close it. Oh, by the way, you also have a guard here that fits on here. And that just keeps splash from going onto the front of the machine. So, just fits there, like so. You know what, on the outside of the machine, we'll clean that just with, you can clean it with Windex. You can't clean the screen with anything that has a high percentage of alcohol, so no sanitation stuff on the screen, because it is a touch screen. But the drip tray comes out as well. I mean, there might be coffee in it. This is something you're probably already doing. Be careful, because if it's full, you have to take it out and dump it. This one has been cleaned. So you just bring it over to the sink and dump it, and put it back in. It fits in this square. And so that's nice and clean. Next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to 5, 6, 5, 7. Go. Install paper filter. It's going to go down and set on the paper, advance the paper. It's ready for a cup of coffee. There we go. Now it's advancing the paper, and then we're going to reset it. It's not a new paper filter roll, it's an old one. You can see the residue of coffee on the inside. It's not important, it's going into the trash below, which is great. And what we're going to do with the door open, we're going to exit, and we're going to make a drink. So in this one, let's go make a coffee number 3, and enjoy now. Make sure you have a cup. Now, we don't have any beans in here, but if there were beans, you would hear that grinding right now. You just want to make sure that everything works. You want to order a French vanilla, chocolate, and a cafe latte, coffee 1, 2, and 3 at the end. It's going through its 51 seconds to make a cup of coffee. Logo. You want to do that for all the drinks. You want to make sure you make something with milk, something with chocolate, something with French vanilla, coffee 1, 2, and 3. If everything works perfectly, shut the door and you're done. Congratulations, you cleaned your machine in 15 minutes.